Chapter 14 is on the wisdom literature, and I'm so glad that I wrote it. And I almost didn't. I'd been doing Bible overviews ever since I was an undergraduate. I think my first time I was on the receiving end of a Bible overview was, I think, when I was 19. I blew my mind. Utterly sort of new set of categories from the idea that the whole of the Bible was one story and it made sense of reality and so forth. I remember the thrill of my first Bible overview, and then I was sort of teaching Bible overviews for a while. I'd never done the wisdom literature. I'd never heard it taught as part of a Bible overview, and I'd never taught it as part of a Bible overview. And one day I was visiting London. I think it was for an academic conference, and I was in All Souls Church. It's the only time I've been there, and I was sort of getting all these John Stott vibes. Oh, it's amazing, I'm in All Souls. And I was meeting a friend there, and I think we were chatting after the service, and I think she was on the staff at All Souls or something like that. She was in some sort of capacity of leading students. And I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm going off to a camp. We're doing a Bible overview, and I'm going to teach the session on wisdom literature." And I thought, of course, yes, it's clearly so much content from the wisdom literature that makes sense of the story of the Bible and contributes in irreplaceable ways to the story of the Bible. And that just really got me thinking, next time I do a Bible overview, I want the wisdom literature to be part of it. And I guess this was the next project that I did, that was taking that sort of biblical theological approach. And so I was determined to have a chapter on the wisdom literature. It was revelatory. It was extraordinary. What I had the privilege of digging up from what other people had thought about the wisdom literature over time and the insights that they gleaned from it. And the one that I want to share in this video is something that, and I don't know where I first came across this. It's not my idea. I got it from somewhere, and it might have been a sermon. I've just lost it, but it's just so insightful, I think. It's the idea that Proverbs on the one hand and Ecclesiastes on the other hand give us two very distinct but complementary perspectives on reality. So the Proverbs perspective is that reality is sort of transparent to reason. If you work hard, you'll get on. If you're lazy, you won't. The good are rewarded, the bad are punished. It's the sort of world of fairy stories, isn't it? The good people always turn out well. But the world of Ecclesiastes is just chaotic. Like, the good work hard all their lives and then get their good stuff taken off them, and the bad, who haven't lifted a finger, suddenly end up being in positions of power and having lots of wealth. And what's the whole point of it anyway? We may as well just, throw our hands up in despair because none of it all makes sense. And both of those perspectives have a ring and a level of truth about them. Life sort of works out most of the time, and those who work hard tend to get on, but not always. And things tend to work out more or less on the balance in a just sort of way that you can see where the conclusions and where the outcomes came from, but sometimes they don't. And it's outrageous, and it's random, and it's horrific. G.K. Chesterton is brilliant on this in Orthodoxy. He says that the trouble with our world is that it's nearly rational, but not quite. And he's got some wonderful images in his characteristic way of talking about that. But the point that I drew from this is that you need both perspectives. You can't have some sort of wishy-washy middle way, just try and merge Proverbs and Ecclesiastes together, because that's not how we experience life. And you can't just have Proverbs or just have Ecclesiastes. If you just have Proverbs, you'll be, your head in the clouds and no sense of the authentic grittiness and miserableness of a lot of life. But if you only ever live in Ecclesiastes, then you're just going to despair, and you're never going to try and build anything because you've got no confidence it'll last, and your relationships are going to be a mess, and all sorts of stuff. So we need these two lenses. You can't merge them into one. A telescope won't do. You've got to have both lenses. And I try and talk in the chapter about how the book of Job navigates this double perspective in just the most astonishing literary way. The way that it jumps from Proverbs to Ecclesiastes perspectives without watering down either one, but in a way that weaves them together. Anyway, so this is one of the things that I think helps Christians to orient themselves towards culture and towards the world from the wisdom literature. It's this double perspective of Proverbs on the one hand and Ecclesiastes on the other, in a way that you can't just split in the middle, and you can't get along with either one of them. It's a really powerful tool of cultural critique, I think.